All right, hello everyone, it's Ferric, and welcome to a special type of video. Basically what this is this is the VOD for the Roundtable Discussion that I hosted this past Thursday on my Twitch channel, and it was with the two lead designers of Wizard101, Ratbeard and Artie, and this video basically serves as a VOD that is going to be here for the end of time for those that either couldn't make it to the stream or those that wanted to rewatch the stream so that it's available permanently. And basically, this discussion was about the Spellement system in Wizard101, and essentially, I asked a bunch of questions about how Spellements started. I gave my own player experience in acquiring all the different types of Spellements in the game, as well as the community's experience as well. Basically, before this all happened for a week or 2 weeks straight, I went from Discord to Discord, asking a bunch of people, getting a bunch of insight from other players' experiences as well, and formulating questions based on that to ask the developers, as well as giving the player experience based on all that. And then I also asked questions about future plans on Spellements, as well as improving the system for Spellements. And I think the discussion went extremely well. It was really productive. And honestly, I would hope to do more of these in the future because, one, it makes the developers aware of the player experience, and it also gives the players insight on the developers' game design philosophy and their future plans as well. And actually, we got a teaser from Artie during this discussion that the spring update this year will implement significant changes or additions to Spellements. So I'm super excited for the future of Spellements as well as the spring update. And, you know, I'm not going to go on too far. Just the VOD itself will be self-explanatory. I hope you enjoy the video, and let's get on with it. All right. Hello, everyone. It's Ferric, and welcome to the Wizard101 Spellement System Roundtable Discussion with the official developers, the two lead designers of Wizard101. Today, we hope to go through the different Spellment systems from the designer standpoint, and I'm also going to give my own player experience for acquiring Spellments and take a deep dive into the specific systems. I've also talked to the community, many different community members, many different communities in Wizard101 over the last week or so to get questions that y'all wanted to ask the developers as well. So hopefully this will be a nice little chill question-answer session, discussion, whatever you want to call it. Anyways, without further ado, let me introduce our guests for today's roundtable. We have 4 official KingsIsle staff members with us. First off, we have the two lead designers. Ratbeard, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Okay. Hi, this is Ratbeard, design lead for the MMO team. I think everybody knows who I am.
All right, we got Ratbeard, and then if you just want to go down the list, next up, Artie, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, Artie Rogers. I'm design director here, so kind of working with Ben on Wizard and then working on various other design sort of things.
All right, and then we also have with us Spark, the community manager, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi everybody, how you doing? I'm Spark, senior community manager at KingsIsle, and the guy who puts out the newsletters and is going to share this probably on the next newsletter.
All right, and then last but certainly not least, we have Cam.
Hey, I'm Cam. I started at KI literally yesterday. I'm an associate designer, and I've been. If you guys have ever watched Ferric, you probably know who I am. I've been a mod for him for a couple years, and run the Discord server and stream myself and all that. Yeah.
All right, well, those are all of our guests for today. I guess I should talk about who I am. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Ferric. I make content on Wizard101, tutorial content, guide content. I'm mostly known for my Wizard101 on a budget walkthrough series in which I quest a character through the game in a way where I play the game exclusively solo. So I have a pretty good understanding of the player experience when it comes to getting all these Spellements. And I guess I don't want to stall too much. We have a very limited time here, so we're gonna jump right into it. You know, get down to the brass tacks, but hopefully not jump into the brass tacks because that would be painful. So, anyways, so we're going to start off with the first topic of today. I guess the topics that we're going to go over today are going to involve the spell rating tiers for the Spellements, the different branches, the different paths. We're going to talk about the lore Spellements. We're going to talk about the acquirability of Spellements, the value of Spellements, other miscellaneous questions, and then if we have time later on, I can take some questions from chat that are hopefully specifically relevant to this discussion right here about Spellements. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Starting off with the first topic, which is spell writing tiers. So, and the way this is going to go is I'm going to give, a little bit of a brief introduction to the topic and hopefully ask a question, give my player experience, and then, we'll hear some insight from Ratbeard, Artie. So here we go. All right, so for spell writing tiers, right now, there's certain spells that are not desirable for players to upgrade, specifically rank 1 spells in general, and a lot of the Spellements acquired through Beast Moon, a lot of them, not all of them, they're simply not valuable to upgrade right now for players. And then specifically Beast Moon Spellements right now only have one path of upgrading in which the damage per pip increases by 5% from the original tier, regardless of whether it's a pure damage spell or a utility spell for all but one of them. So I guess my first question here would be, in general, do you have any plans on adding more branches to these specific 2 types of Spellements, where a player has more choices in upgrading the spell, whether that's reducing the pip cost or adjusting the utility, rather than just the damage in the case of both? And for the 1 pip Spellements, obviously the accuracy also goes up. Do you have any plans on adding more branches to those 2 specifically, the rank 1s and the Beast Moon ones?
Yes.
There you go. That's the show, everybody.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for watching. All right. Okay.
I'd say probably it's almost kind of up to you guys. We could do it either way. I had been thinking that I might pick, because we do want to go back and revisit those rank 1s and 2s for sure. I'm not sure that we'll necessarily hit some of the later ones in our first pass. But for the rank 1s and 2s, it's hard for me to guess which ones the players like the least. I might take a guess at it. I could add a third path, or I could sort of overwrite the path that exists. And if you've already unlocked that particular path, then the spell itself changes, just like any other change we make to a spell. It would just automatically work. Probably I would want to do that. I will say that at the moment, just because the way the UI is designed, it can only handle 3 branches, and that's 3 at the far end, right? So there's a couple of cases where Magnetic made a spell that branched once early and then branched again at the end, but you'll notice that at the end there's no more than 3 sort of branches at the end. And we have talked about, Artie and I have talked about, whether we would like to support more than just the 3 branches, and we might, but for the short term at least, it'll be just 3 max. And so, I probably it'll come down to me just deciding as I tackle each of these, whether I want to add a 3rd branch or overwrite one of the ones that exist. I don't think anybody's going to be particularly unhappy if we overwrite branches. With the rank 2s, it might be a little bit different, because the rank 2s kind of already did have a couple of more interesting choices to them. So that one might be a case where I would certainly add a 3rd path before I would mess with one of the other 2.
Okay, yeah. So I guess So like with Nautilus, for example, if you see here, obviously as soon as you get this specific spell, this is obviously not one of the rank 1 and 2, but I feel like this is a good example of different Spellment branches. So obviously with this spell, you have the option to either be an overtime or be a straight up hit, and then obviously at the very, very end for the top branches, you have the option of either stealing the blade first or doing it after and then getting an extra charm. So I think it's this spell specifically, it's interesting how there's a bunch of different options, and it would be cool to see that for the rank 1 Spellments as well. And then obviously the Beast Moon ones, right now they're currently only damage upgrades, but it would be cool to see changes for that as well. So it's good to hear that that y'all are considering future paths for those. So for my next question,
we are re-examining the system holistically. Okay. So we're going to be auditing all the progressions of the different Spellements. I mean, this is a long-term plan, though, right? So, when we're looking at different improvements to the system, we have to go in a phased approach, to make it make the choices more compelling and giving players more agency in kind of how a spell progresses. So we're going to be looking We're going to be re-examining all of it, though.
Okay. And then my next question that is related to this topic is when deciding which new spells to create Spellements for. So obviously we have 1, 2, and then like I guess for like world Spellements we also have Lemuria and Caramel. So I guess for Spellements, like if there's Spellements for 3-pip spells or whatever, when you're deciding which spells you're going for, which spells do you prioritize and which types of spells do you think are going to be the least likely to be touched?
I'll let Artie go first if he wants to.
Okay.
Sure. And so, well, right now we're looking at the ones that already have Spellements in part. So like auditing those for kind of the direction we wanted Spellements to go. And then we'll be looking at how the player normally progresses through the game, because we see Spellements potentially being a major progression mechanic for new users. So we'll be examining all the school spells, and so that's how we'll do it. We'll do it from front to back, basically. I mean, the end game already has Spellements, and so we'll be auditing those and then trying to apply the same sort of design principles to those that we'll be applying to the earlier spells, but we'll be doing it for creating new ones from the front to the back.
Okay. Do you have anything to touch on that, Ratbeard?
Yeah, I think he covered it.
Okay.
I have I mean, just from my own standpoint, as I go through more of the hands-on approach to this, it kind of comes down to what kinds of changes we have to make. Artie looks at this sort of from a high level view, which is how are we going to distribute Spellements across the game and across all sorts of access for players, right? So that's the high level view, and then I'm more of the tactical view, which is what Spellements exist, where are they, where can we place them, and so my approach is going to be I will be looking at things like where Spellements already exist or where they could be placed. I have a sort of a matrix of school by school and world by world of places that Spellements would be natural fits, and so clearly if there's a hole, right, if a particular school doesn't have a particularly interesting Spellement available in a world, then I'm like, okay, that's a place where I might focus my first attention on this. But as already mentioned, this is going to be this is an ongoing process, and so we'll see what we can accomplish. Someone asked, when is this going to happen? And the answer is both soon and long term, right? So we have both short and long term changes planned.
Okay. Okay. So that's cool to hear. So you're looking at it from you're looking at all the Spellements and you're looking to possibly audit them before considering adding new ones in terms of like rank 3 Spellements, things like that. You want to audit all the other ones that currently exist first, if that's correct.
Well, I mean, one of the things that, again, design is never sort of a single problem discipline, right? We look at various problems we have across the entire game, and then as we look at each system, we see how that system ties into other things, right? So, we've talked about, I've talked about things like PvE hard mode before, and the Rochambeau, and how that Rochambeau ties into PvE hard mode, and so we might be looking to the Spellements to sort of feed into that in certain ways. And so again, you should be looking. What you will see, it should all make sense for people who are looking at the big picture. And I think ferric is one of those big picture guys who kind of looks at how things all tie together. We'll look for the places where there are functional gaps and in terms of the types of spells that you need, and we'll look for places where there are, I guess, loot gaps, right? Or a loot gap is fine. Places where players need to have some impetus to be interested in progressing their spells at a particular time.
Okay. All right. I guess that pretty much does it for this section. So I guess we can move on to the next one. This one's gonna be a big one. I know people have been waiting for this. This was also addressed in the dev diary, which already recently released. I highly recommend y'all check that out. The link for that will be down in the description below. It's also available as a chat command, but this section will be about lore Spellements specifically. So, let's see here. So I guess, yeah, in the dev diary there was a section about the sources of the Spellements right now, some of them being a little bit restrictive. And so I guess on the topic of acquisition as well, is a little bit in between both, but specifically with lore Spellements, right now we have 4 Spellmental packs, not including the Deluxe Spellmental pack, 3 of which don't currently have a method of being able to farm them. And those 4 packs would be the Grizzleheim pack Spellments, which are currently farmable, the Celestian pack, Wisteria and Ravenwood Ranger Spellmental packs. And me as a player, I personally enjoy farming for the Spellments and playing the game, and doing different things in the game itself to be able to get them. And so I guess first I wanted to talk a little bit about the Grizzleheim Spellments, which are currently farmable. But as a player, I will say this personally right now, with the way we have to farm them in the game, I'm not really a fan of the process of getting them, because the way they work is you fight this skeleton key boss called King Boar, who's in Grizzleheim, who has 3 different tiers for the skeleton keys. That's the gold, wooden, and stone skeleton keys. And that first requires you to farm for the skeleton keys, depending on which tier that you want to farm. And then, so you have to farm for a chance to get the keys. And then once you have the keys, you then have to spend that key to have a separate chance to maybe, potentially, but likely not get a Spellment. And in my opinion, I don't think that this specific system is a rewarding system just as a player, even though they are technically farmable. So I guess, given all that, my first question related to this is, do you currently have plans to increase the variety of ways in which we can potentially farm for lore Spellements if we don't like the methods currently available as players?
Yes.
Artie? Yeah.
Yes. I'm basically creating a loot map to diversify the options players have to acquire the Spellments they want. Like on the recent Scroll of Fortune, I integrated a lot of Spellements more into the Scroll of Fortune this time around, to give that as an option. And then, again, it'll end up being a phased out approach. Right now, we're kind of putting the details into this plan of distribution of Spellements, and then creating options for the player to acquire them. Not every Spellment will be acquired in every way, but probably most of the ways that you play the game, there will be a way to get Spellments through that system ultimately. But again, this is going to be a kind of a long-term process. So, that relies on some of the things that Ratbeard had mentioned previously. So, over the coming milestones or what have you, we'll be adding new ways for players to pursue and get the Spellements. Because like I said, in the dev diary, it becomes a complicated issue of finding how to inform players about where the Spellements they want to get, where to go get them, and how. So that's a challenge. And then, it's also, it's actually less challenging, I think, to find and integrate the Spellements. But we have to make them, then we have to integrate them, and then we have to figure out the best way to tell folks how to get them once they're there.
Okay, I guess as like a follow up to the point you made towards the end there, with regards to whether or not players should find out themselves. So, do you think you could touch a little bit on that? Where do you want the community to figure out where to get these Spellements, or obviously in the dev diary it's mentioned that there's going to be some sort of tutorial that's going to explain Spellements in general, but then with specific Spellements, is there going to be a way in game to know in general where you want to get the Spellements? How much is going to be revealed to us when it comes to where we want to get the Spellements?
Not entirely sure how precise we want to be, but I would say, and Ben and I still need to kind of discuss how exact we want to be. But there are certain spells and Spellements that, like for instance, you can get from Beast Moon. And so, but if you hadn't played Beast Moon or whatever, you may not even know that it exists as an option. And even if you did know it existed, the only way you would know how to get it would be through the community, which is fine in some cases. Like I said in the dev diary, it's not like we want to be exacting. we do want to kind of direct you, put you in a direction, because ultimately the Spellement progression should be desirable, where the player wants to get the Spellements, and so once we can kind of instill that progression desire, then we want to be able to give them some direction as to where to put their efforts to get the Spellements they want. But it wouldn't be terribly precise or exhaustive, but it would put you in the right direction. Like, hey, go to Celestia or whatever, and then once you're there, you'll have to find it.
So that I guess like that kind of ties into your point earlier about how you obviously not every single game system there's not going to be every single way to get a specific type of Spellement, but there's going to be many different varieties of ways. So because of that, there's not going to be like the game's not going to specifically tell you, go farm this boss to get this Spellement. It's just in general, like players are going to understand the idea of, hey, these are the different ways to get the Spellements. I like this way, and I'm going to farm, or however it is, I'm going to get it this way. And
yeah, some of the ways should be intuitive. Right, so like as soon as you kind of know, as soon as you kind of know where to go, and then if you think of some, then it should become evident as to what specifically you should do once you're in Celestia or whatever to kind of get the Spellements you want.
Okay, and I guess my other question relating to this to the lore Spellements, I guess you kind of already answered that with the first question. It was just about how in the past, or I guess very recently as well, y'all have talked about how you want to, make the game less pay to win. And I wanted to hear your thoughts about what you think about Spellements that are exclusive to packs, but I feel like you did already touch on that a little bit. But I guess if there's like anything else that you want to add about pack Spellements in general, I guess also relating to the time frame in between when they're released as a pack and when they're farmable in the game through means other than opening packs.
I don't know. Ben, do you wanna tackle that one? I mean, we haven't really talked about it specifically. I mean, packs is an acquisition method.
Yeah.
Right. And so they'll be available there.
Yeah.
But we want to be able to diversify the ways that you get them, and so and that's how I've been approaching it. I haven't yet, I think we've talked about any sort of release schedule.
Okay.
But I mean, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
I don't know. Ben, or did you have anything to add to that?
Well, I mean, maybe. I might add too much.
Yeah.
I think that our goal for this, for Spellements is, imagine taking a new wizard. Like, I know most of your viewers probably have well-established wizards, but imagine taking a new wizard in the game, and as you progress through the game, you should be encountering Spellements through the activity of questing, right? And then once you've gotten some Spellements through questing, you might also discover that there may be bosses that drop them at a better rate, and so you might decide to spend some of your time farming a boss for those Spellements. And you might also discover that there's Spellements available in Beast Moon. And I saw some people in chat saying, I don't want to play Beast Moon. Well, we direct players to various places. And so, if you guys tell us that you don't want them in packs and you don't want them in Beast Moon, you don't want them here and you don't want them there, I'm not sure what would satisfy you other than a button that just says give Spellements. So clearly that's not going to happen. You will be expected to do things, and it might require a level of effort to get those things. But what should happen is, when you get your first Ice Beetle Spellement, for example, we want to make sure that Ice Beetle is interesting to you for longer than just till level 5, right? I mean, as it stands right now, the Frost Beetle is sort of retired as soon as you get your rank 2. What is that? The Snow Serpent, right?
Yeah, Frost Serpent.
So one of the challenges for us is to help use Spellements to keep those spells interesting for longer. But they don't need to necessarily be interesting forever either, right? So they will phase out. So as you're questing through the world, you should be picking up Spellements. You should be interested in upgrading the spells that you have with the Spellements that you have. And as you progress through the world, you'll be seeing new Spellements, right? Just as you would expect. So expect to find Spellements for your lowest ranked spells in the earliest worlds, and expect to find Spellements for the mid-range stuff in the mid worlds, and expect to find Spellements for the the high ranked spells in the higher worlds. It should all feel very natural. And I'll add one more thing, which is to say, expect to find Grizzleheim Spellements in Grizzleheim, and expect to find Celestia Spellements in Celestia, and expect to find Wisteria Spellements in Wisteria. All of these things should feel very natural to you. And so I don't think it's going to be hard for players to kind of figure out where to get Spellements in the natural course of things. And it may just be the extra sources as well. That is, and again, it won't be difficult to figure out, but you'll have to find what are the additional sources that I have in addition to just questing through the game, that might work for me. And it all is going to depend on how long you find those spells interesting. Because that is the big challenge is, how do you keep a spell like Frost Beetle interesting for longer than Wizard City, right? Just to put it very bluntly. So that's a fun challenge. I'm looking forward to it. I think we have some good answers.
Okay. I really like the concept of, like Wizard City Spellments, you can unlock them in Wizard City, and then like obviously the Grizzleheim Spellments, obviously those, you play through Grizzleheim. I think that does add that intuitiveness to like, hey, this is the world that the pack is based off, or I guess the Spellments are based off of. That's the world where we're gonna get the Spellments. I feel like that's a pretty good way to go about things. So, all right. With that being said, we can move on to the next section, which I guess it's more about acquirement and stuff, but it's about something very specific. And so right now, one of the ways that I really like, that I personally like, that we can get Spellments, and I think it's a healthy implementation. It allows you to get the rank 1, rank 2, the Caramel and Lemuria Spellments, and it's through adventure talents on pets such as Elemental Retriever. And the way that talent works, for those of y'all that don't know, is basically, I don't have it on a pet right now, but essentially, if you are near a wooden chest, right over here, a little message pops up where it can open that chest to find a Spellment, and you get one or two Spellments of that type. So like for Elemental Retriever, for example, you get, Storm, Ice, or Fire Spellments. And so in Wizard City, if you use Elemental Retriever and go to a chest, it will give you a Fire Cat, Thunder Snake, or Frost Beetle Spellment. And then obviously for Crocotopia, it gives you the rank 2 version. Right now in Crocotopia, I think the Fire one is currently bugged. I believe it gives like a Fire Cat, but that's obviously an easy fix. So this system, it feels really, really good, but it also feels a little bit incomplete, because right now there's Elemental Retriever, but there's not a Spirit Retriever pet talent in the game. And also right now, obviously, this is just because these are the Spellments that exist in the game. It works in Wizard City, Crocotopia for the rank 1 and 2 Spellments, and it works in Caramel and Lemuria for those Shadow Spellments. So I guess my question here is this one of the main ways, this adventure talent system, one of the main ways to add more acquirability in the future?
Yeah, that is a way, and we'll be adding the other talent soon to work that way. And right now, the talent should not be activatable in a world where we have not made Spellements available yet.
Yeah.
And so the talent also will begin to expand in its usability as we address those sorts of things. But yeah, there'll be another adventure pet talent that'll come down the pipe soon to address like you said. So,
okay.
Yes, that is coming.
All right, yeah, that's good to hear, because I think I think that is a good way to do it, because it costs a little bit of pet happiness, but you can feed your pet snacks to increase the happiness, and now instead of those wooden chests that later on players tend to avoid, now like with that adventure talent, you can actually just have your pet go open the chest, and then it gives you a Spellment. I think that is a really cool concept, and it does work pretty well in Wizard City and Crocotopia, and obviously those later worlds as well. So it would be cool to see an expansion of that feature. So that's good to hear. So I guess we can move on to the next section, which is going to be related to the value of Spellments. So I guess my first question right here will be, can you touch on the value of Spellments? For example, how long do you think players should spend getting them, time spent getting them? And do you believe that players should be able to max out a Spellment through normal means? And by normal means, I guess I mean like passive means, or should they have to separately grind whatever it is to max them out?
I'll start, although I'm sure Artie has some comments on this.
Okay.
And it's a complicated question because, again, I said as you're progressing through the game, you should be upgrading the spells that you are acquiring as you move up through the game, right? And so there needs to be some timeline on that, and we just pick a number, right? I'll say let's all agree that the number that we picked for the Dragoon's gear was too high. Right.
Yeah.
That's a really high amount of grind. Right. So we'll look at the grind and we'll figure out how long we think that it should take to do that. I think players feel like, there's an expectation that it should be really, really quick. And it's complicated by the fact that for a lot of players, you might want more than one Spellement. And for a lot of players, you might have more than one wizard. And so it gets very complicated very quickly in terms of how fast it can be. If we tune the system to drop all the spells that you need for 7 wizards, because a lot of end game players have more than one max wizard, then the what we call a faucet is 7 times too fast for a person who may only have a single wizard. Whereas if we tune it for a person who has a single wizard, then it feels 7 times too slow for somebody who has multiple wizards. So it's a complicated question. I would just say in the broadest sense, I think that the amount of time that you spend grinding on something should tide you over until the next update, right? So, you should have something to do in the game, and if the something that you want to do is to grind for your, whether it happens to be gear or Spellements or anything that you happen to be grinding for, the amount of time for that is, don't make it so long that it feels onerous, but don't make it so short that you end up being bored again. And that's a very simple design answer, right? We want you to have things to do. Grind is the thing to do. So, if Artie's got something to say on that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a little bit. Part of what we felt was needed is we needed to improve the reward cycle for normal adventuring, because it felt like there was the player's power progression would stall out for long periods of time based on various issues between gear and some other things. And so how fast you actually tier something up is going to be a function of how many different things we're expecting you to, or we are expecting to increase in power during your normal play session. Like, you're going to be accumulating a variety of Spellements just as you're playing. So that's going to be part of it. When do you get those dings on your spells versus getting dings on your character versus replacing pieces of gear? So that's part of it. And then another part of it is just a matter of, putting forth a certain amount of effort to achieve certain things. Like our badges and other things are related to commitment and effort on the player's part, and then they can display those things. Or whether it's, I see you've got one of the event pieces of gear on there, and that's that's reflective of a certain level of investment into the event. And so now people know that you've dedicated a lot of effort to that, and that's because it wasn't easy to get. And so, on the one hand, Spellements need to be it is an important part of a normal wizard's progression. It's something that it should be investable and should be gratifying, and then it should allow spells to remain relevant longer during a normal character's progression. But at the same time, if everybody is getting tier 5 just by doing mainline or something like that, then we haven't left ourselves any space for achievement. Really,
then it doesn't become special anymore. Yeah.
Right. And so I think I can't say a specific time at this time, because I have to model it all out soon to know. But like I said, some of it should just come from adventuring, like we've talked about, but then other parts of it should take extra effort.
Okay. And then I wanted to comment on that, I guess. So I do like obviously, like with other events, not just related to Spellements, but obviously like this right here, this is the Beast Moon robe. But with specifically related to Spellements, I think it's really cool that like for most Spellements, there's just a few where it doesn't happen. They haven't implemented it yet, but for most Spellements, when you have it at max tier, there's like this little glow on the spell, so you can kind of like even if the Spellment itself right now has not been tuned to give something that a player finds necessarily helpful, that at least like you can show off that like, hey, look at this Spellment that I have. It's tier 5. It has this really cool glow to it. So I think that is I personally think is a pretty cool thing about the higher tier Spellments. So, but yeah. Okay, so I guess the next question is, it's once again related to values or the value of Spellments. So once a player has maxed out a specific Spellment, and they continue to accumulate more of that Spellment, or they have Spellments they don't want. For example, let's say I am a life wizard and I don't like the ice school, but I'm getting ice Spellments. I don't plan on making an ice wizard. What should a player like that do? So, because then that player is basically sitting on Spellments that they don't have any use for, that they don't plan to use. So like, what would a player like that do, I guess? And do you have like any systems that are coming, or I guess, do you have any ideas on that?
Not specifically yet. I mean, we know it's a problem, right?
Yeah.
We know it's an issue of, to a certain extent, this sort of imprecise accumulation is a desirable effect, right? Just in terms of what you're getting out of any sort of loot drop. I mean, that's part of what makes it can make the experience satisfying. And not all cases, right? Like in Beast Moon, you can make specific spellements. You can craft specific spellements. But in a lot of cases, having that sort of randomness is part of what makes the experience enjoyable. But yeah, we were just talking about it, I guess, today also, is sort of brainstorming some ideas about, what do we want to do with, what do we want to do once a spell hits max spellments and you keep accumulating spellments, that even if you want to use them, there's no use for them. And then what, if anything, do we want to do with the spellments that are accumulating, like you said, that you may not want? And yeah, we don't have any solid answers, but just to say that we know it's something that we're aware of it, and we're kind of mulling some different options.
Okay, I guess yeah, that's pretty much all I had prepared for in terms of value. I guess now we can move on to some more miscellaneous questions that I couldn't really categorize, but basically, I guess my first question is, these are probably like a lot more simple questions, but I guess on the topic of pre-enchants, could you talk about why spells with Spellement paths can no longer be pre-enchanted in PvE or PvP?
Curious why you phrase that as no longer. They've Spellament paths, spell-written spells. How about that? Spell-written spells have never been able to be pre-enchanted, and the reason for that is very simple. If you are offered two choices, and and we want the choice to be meaningful, a player takes his spell down path A and creates as many treasure card variants of that as he wants, and then he resets his spell and he takes it down path B and he makes as many treasure cards of that as he wants. And so it simply trivializes the choice.
Okay.
And so that's why. That's it.
So and then I guess on that note, so like for example, I guess this is very, very specific to me and like other solo players, I guess, who want to like solo certain bosses with cheats. Fire Elf right here, for example, like in the past, before Fire Elf became a Spellement, if you wanted to use this on, and this is a very, very specific example, but if you wanted to use this in a solo fight where you want to counter a cheat in which the boss needs to take a lot of damage, what players would do is they'd pierce enchant, accuracy enchant this spell, and then carry these inside. So I guess like obviously based on your answer, you don't want players to go towards this top path, create TC for that, and then reset the spell, go towards this bottom path, create TC for that. What about for like the tier 1 version before you actually do like, would there be a possibility of bringing that back, or not really, for like the tier 1 version?
It's that piece may be a tech question. right?
Okay.
I think it would end up being a tech question, and I understand your point entirely, because it's one of the reasons that actually I stayed away from the rank 3s as long as I have. I will touch the rank 3s now, but is because of the fact that it prevents you from pre-enchanting those. So it's an issue. But I would also say that if you have to carry a couple of extra spells in your main deck, we as the devs are not going to cry about that.
Okay.
You can afford to carry the enchant in your deck and get the use out of it that you want. So.
All right. Okay. That I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that does it for that question. So, I guess the next one would be, I was gonna ask. It was a question about Inferno Salamander specifically, but I feel like you've already answered this. But I guess like just for the roundtable, specifically related to Inferno Salamander. Obviously, the spell was very recently changed. I believe just yesterday or 2 days ago. The spell itself was changed, but then for the actual tier system, the way the Beast Moon Spellements work, and I guess in general a lot of the ones that where you increase the value of the spell, for example, increasing the damage. So for Beast Moon Spellements, from tier 1 to tier 5, they got a total of around like a 20% increase. But then when this spell was changed, the initial damage was taken off, and then it was just created as like a straight up overtime. But then also the max tier of it, this specific spell, was 10%. So I'm pretty sure you already answered this, but I guess like just for on stream for now, what was the exact reason for specifically nerfing the higher tier damage on this spell to 10%?
Really, I mean, there's a couple of answers to this. Ultimately, it's just a way to address the issues surrounding Salamander in the meta.
Mm-hmm.
Not all spells can have 20%. I think this is clearly a case where 20% was just too much, and obviously 20% of a big number is an even bigger number. That's fairly standard.
Yep.
Keep in mind also that when it comes down to designing these Spellment paths, at times there were 3 designers working on it. Matt Nedick typically handled the ones that drop in the world, like the Mirror Caramel. I might handle Spellements like the trainable TCs. This one, I think probably Stormbringer handled this one. So with 3 designers, we have guidelines, but at the end of the day, it comes down to designer taste to some degree. Now, an additional thing that we had in mind here with Infernal Salamander, really kind of relates back to some of our longer term plans for fire and for overtimes in general. And so this is a case where someone asked me as well, well, how come you made this one like Scald and you didn't do this with all the dots, right?
Yeah.
The answer to that would be all things in due time, I guess. Right now, Inferno Salamander was presenting itself as a problem, and if you're familiar with the adage, it says the nail that sticks up farthest is the first to get hammered down, and that's certainly the case.
I like
here.
that saying. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's convenient here, and the same issue happened with mana burn, right? Mana burn was a problem for a long time, and players often wonder why we wait so long to do these things, and part of the reason for that is because we generally prefer for players to find their own solutions to things rather than to just run to chat and say nerf this thing. And so we like to watch for a good long time and let players find their own solutions first. In this particular case, again, it's sort of dovetailed with, hey, this thing is kind of a problem, and also we're kind of thinking about maybe changing a way that dots kind of operate all together. And so those two things combining at the same time, at the right time, sort of tip the scales on this one.
All right. I think that does it for like the main questions. I guess like one little point that I wanted to add at the very end, which does relate to Beast Moon Spellements, but just event related things in general. But I feel like maybe maybe I'm wrong about this, but right now when it comes to balance event related items, balance school seems to have, like, when you're going for every school's whatever it is, so for example, if you're trying to do all the decathlons, if you're trying to garden all the school's Beast Moon seeds, balance whatever it is, runes, spellments, seeds, tend to have a higher drop rate. So for example, for Beast Moon Spellments, I have a sample size right here where someone got 7,299 Spellments from Beast Moon seeds, and of those, it seemed that around 26% of those seeds were balanced Spellements, but every other school individually was around like 12.5%. So it seems that balance seems to have this like for event reward seems to have like double the rate of the other schools. So that's just, it's not really a question, it's more of just like something that I've noticed, and I just thought y'all should I should let y'all know about that. So that's just a little side point that I wanted to add there. But yeah, I don't know if you had any thoughts on that, but that's just
oh yeah, well, the part of the problem is just, you know, balance is just sort of in a strange position, right?
Yeah.
So like, you know, because I was doing the same drop rate treatment in Beast Moon that I did in the decathlon for balance. So basically, they should be half the drop rate of all the other schools, since they have the possibility of dropping every time.
Yeah.
And so, you know, but I can look at it. I can look at the loot tables to make sure they are actually set up in the way that they should be.
All right. I appreciate that. Yeah, I just wanted to point that out there, because I think like right now I don't know if you can see my screen, but I can, as you can see, I'm like working on getting these Beast Moon Spellements myself. And the way I initially did them was I was gardening the seeds, but if we look over to balanced Spellements, as you can see, I have around like 200 of each, but then for the other schools I have 100 of each. But as you said, you know, you're like you know, the loot tables are being worked on, things like that. So yeah. I guess that does it for my main questions. I guess at this point we can start taking some specific questions from chat if people want to ask some specific questions that we may not have touched on. Obviously, keep it specific to this this discussion. Don't go off on a tangent if that's possible. So if anyone in chat wants to ask a question, right now is the time to do so.
Maybe while we're waiting for them in chat to come up with some questions, I don't know if Ratbeard or Artie, if you guys, you know, there was a lot of questions thrown at you. If there's anything you wanted to say about Spellements, perhaps in general, while we gather those questions from the chat.
I guess I'd be kind of curious about how we are talking about how much do we want to the advancement trees? How complex do we want the advancement trees to be? And I'm not sure if y'all have an opinion on that. We were looking at different options to add some, more options, more choices in how you have your spell developed. So, I mean, I guess that's something.
All right, and then Ratbeard, did you have any general thoughts that you wanted to get out before we start reading some of these questions?
I've actually been sort of tackling the chat with,
I can see that
answers. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else. I'd rather leave it to the players to ask questions, and we can respond to that. So
okay, I guess I can start at the top. I feel like some of these questions y'all did you know, hit on these points, but I guess I guess they are a little bit more specific. So I guess the first question I see here is if there's any new Spellment paths incoming in the future. I think we did touch on that briefly a little bit earlier. So I guess, like, I don't know if you had anything else to say on it, or if we can just move on to the next one.
Yeah, are you seeing any that haven't been talked about yet? Because most of these have been talked about or are like very specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you should expect more Spellements. I mean, we're fleshing out the system more, so you should expect to see spells that haven't had Spellements have Spellements, and possibly some of the ones that already have Spellements. You should see maybe it gets fleshed out a little bit, or you should see some changes possibly in those. So, and then, like I said, that's going to be kind of a long-term thing. There's a lot of spells out there, and we want to integrate it with your normal progression. So that means we need to look at each of the worlds and the spells that you acquire there, things. And yeah, so it's a complicated but long-term goal to add a bunch.
Yeah, there was a second part to a question. I don't know if it got answered specifically, but last roundtable, Matt Natick was saying spells like Feint are never gonna get Spellments, or he didn't say never, but he was just like they don't need it. So are there any, like, what kinds of spells do you feel like are the least likely to have upgrades?
Designers don't like ever never questions, right? Because
True.
because design is the art of imagination and possibilities and things like that. So we don't like to close the door on stuff. And even I have said never, right? No, we'll never do this. You know, and of course we change our mind at some later date. So ever never is never a good way to start a question to a designer, because you'll not get a very good answer. It's particularly bad for our engineers, right? The engineers will say to the designer, "I can design this for you in one day if you promise that you will never want this thing." So we'll say, "Okay, do it in one day," and then, you know, a year down the line, we'll ask them to give us the thing we said we'd never want. Anyhow, so I mean, now I've almost forgotten the entire first question. I would want to be able to go back at any time and say that anything is open to changing. Someone in the chat was asking about pre-enchanting linear spells, and I did mention that it is a tech issue at the moment, right? Just technologically, it's the way the code is written to create spell written spells. They are considered a different category of spells, and so there's some technological hurdles there. But I would also say that we might want to add a path to those at some point. In fact, I think as designers, we would easily say every spell element should have 2 paths for you whenever possible. We'd like for you guys to have the choices to do those things. So,
and I think there's there's so many spells, right? There's so many spells already that have progression potential. That I don't know. I can't speak for Ratbeard, but I'm not looking at the list saying what are we not doing, right? Because there's so many options about what we are doing that's consuming my brain space at the moment. It's like we have so many different spells, so many different options about how to take them in different directions. And so, like, is there a spell that won't get Spellements? Probably somewhere. But when we run out of existing spells that need Spellements, where we're like, we don't have anything to do. Should we do this one or not? Okay, yeah, maybe that'll happen, but it'll be so far in the future that I'm just not even sweating it at the moment.
Yeah. Someone in chat just mentioned one of the ones that I can say for sure. Like, I'm not looking at the 7-pip AOEs right now because they are already so good. So that's a place where I would say, okay, I can afford to not think about these ones right now. In fact, I might even say that of AOEs in general, although finding interesting ways for AOEs to be something other than just your alpha strike certainly interests me. But yeah, the 7-pip AOEs, I wouldn't start there, right? I think we have ways that we would want other spells to be interesting first. And then in terms of utility, it's always dangerous for us to take a utility and make it do 2 different things, right? Because then we're actually eating into design space that might have been better occupied by a second spell. And so I look at that kind of thing as well and decide whether it would be better for a player to have access to these 2 things at the same time, or to create a spellment path where they have to choose between access of one of these 2 things, and then ultimately whether or not we want to basically gobble up that design for a spellment when it might be better served in a different way. So we have some loose rules as to how what we look at and when. So, but yeah, Feint is not. I would say Feint is probably not the top of the list. It's a good spell.
Okay. I guess like, and this is also something that I'm pretty sure y'all already touched on, but I guess a lot of questions are asking, like, if there will be like some sort of roadmap or anything like that. I guess this would be a hard question to answer exactly right now, but if there's a roadmap for when a lot of these changes to Spellments are coming, I guess.
Go ahead, Artie.
Well, I mean, not really. I mean, we're going to start. So in some cases, we know more specifically what we're going to do and what we're going to be able to accomplish. But like in 480 has this current milestone, spring milestone, has a lot of stuff in it, and we're addressing Spellements as a long-term multi-release initiative. And some of these things that we're talking about, this isn't just 1 or 2 milestones, right? This is probably, it's a really long-term initiative. And so, could we have a roadmap? Yeah, but it would end up changing, right? So I don't know. If you're asking something very specific, I might be able to comment on it. But we have to remain agile, because we may lay out a 2-year roadmap today, and then based on the community's response, we may have to pivot and change. And then all of a sudden, what we promised in month 9, all of a sudden isn't there anymore. And so then all of a sudden, we have to answer to that. And so we have to remain flexible. We have to remain agile to what the community is responding to.
Yeah, just to build on that, Artie, I think one way, because I'm looking at, what we're producing, what we're developing, the scheduling of like, when are the things going to be released to the community, and when do I need to be ready to start putting them into update notes and all those sort of things, and when can we mention them on roundtables and KI Lives and everything. So I'm always looking at our development docs and all of that, GDDs and whatnot. And what I'll say to that, for any major development, updating, improving systems like Spellements and anything else really, that we have a lot of what I'll call guideposts in our production documents. We'll have, milestones and big beats where we'll try to hit them, at the next update, the couple of updates after that, and then it gets obviously, as already kind of mentioned, a little bit thinner and thinner, and like, well, let's see, what are we gonna do 5 years from now? Well, that's really out there. There's no real roadmap or even guidepost per se to that level, but it's always been adjusted, and we always have a plan. It's not like we don't have any plan, but it also depends quite a bit on how much feedback comes from the community for those things that are maybe, let's say 6 months or more, a couple years certainly out there, and we get community feedback from the nearer term updates to that. So the spring update, we get some feedback from you guys when you see changes that are coming for that, and then we steer and adjust the course of what we thought we were going to maybe do a year from now based on it.
Yeah, I'll just say, because I'm afraid that the chat is hearing lengths of time, like 6 months or 2 years, whatever. Let's be clear, we are going to start making some of these changes, in the short term. It's not like you're not going to see anything happen with this for a long, long time. What we are saying is that we expect the system to be improved incrementally, starting now, basically. Right? We are already working on it. Yeah.
Spring update, right?
Yeah. We can talk about some of the stuff for the spring update. It's just like I said, if the question was a bit vague about what we were going to tackle and what the time frame was. Yeah, we're gonna start diversifying sources of Spellements in the spring milestone. We're going to start adding new Spellements and new progression paths to existing spells, and auditing progression paths for existing spells with Spellements. All that in this milestone. And
so that's our, ladies and gentlemen, that's officially our first technical teaser for the spring update.
Sorry, right? Well, yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
No, that's good. I think that's a pretty safe one. We have obviously more stuff that we will save for later, but with a lot of these things, you guys kind of expect that we're going to make improvements and tweaks upon in one near-term update or another, and there's something for you guys for the spring update.
All right, that's awesome.
I hear crying outside my door. I think my daughter just lost her next loose tooth.
Oh. Well,
sorry. If you can hear that, I apologize.
No, we don't hear it, but congratulations, I guess. All right, so I think I saw an interesting question here earlier. I don't know how much, I don't want to take up too much of y'all's time today, but So someone asked a question about so they like the idea of multiple path upgrades, but what about and this is just like a what if, like a new idea. What about the idea of maybe combining two different and this obviously I guess that ties into your answer about, making, like, instead of making different spellment paths, just make a new spell. What about combining two different spellments into one spell that that is like its own spell or whatever? I guess that's what the question is about.
You mean like mutates?
Well, in a way where it's like different spellements that combine into one spell. I guess that's what the question was about. It was like earlier, it was from like Mumble Tumble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a weird idea, but it's kind of interesting. I mean, yeah, I don't know. We hadn't actually thought about like combining existing spellements to create a new one. But that's, I don't know. That's kind of interesting. I'll put it on the list.
All right.
Put that on that 2-year plan.
Oh yeah, the 2-year plan. And yeah, you know what? I kind of want to mention this, because what Spark said when he kind of got on me a little bit. So we don't hide details because we don't know them, and we don't hide details because we don't want you to know them. It's just there's a way to present the ideas, and there's a way to present what we're working on in a way to makes it most enjoyable for the community at large. And if we were just out there kind of just leaking this and that and all these other different things, it kind of steals the magic for when we actually do the final reveal. There's a certain amount of fanfare and a certain amount of excitement that happens when that happens, So don't take this, if I'm kind of being vague or whatever as a way to dodge a question or whatever. It's more, and again, to sort of commend Spark for bringing me back in line, is that we have a way of sort of that we like to tell you what is happening. And it's exciting. It's like Christmas morning, it's a Christmas morning, not knowing what's in the gift versus knowing what's in it. And so there's a different level of excitement that you get when we finally reveal the details of what is all in the spring update. It's going to be really exciting. I mean, I'm excited for it. I want to tell you guys all about it. But, if I did it, it's not going to be in the best way. It's kind of like seeing the gift, in your parents' bedroom or whatever. Not, it's not as exciting as opening it up. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
All right. I guess that does it. Do you have, I guess, Ratbeard, Artie, do y'all have any final thoughts that y'all wanted to talk about, or is this a good stopping point?
I mean, I kind of wanted to just mention, and then, sorry, I'll let Ratbeard go on about stuff. We're super excited about the direction. I mean, it's a major undertaking for what we're trying to do, right? And so, but we're pretty excited about it. We think the Spellment system is a unique progression mechanic for Wizard and for games in general. And so I think it has a lot of potential. And it's a partnership with the community also, because, all of you are experiencing and interfacing with this on a daily basis as you're going through mainline and things. So make sure you make your opinion known on our forums, or contacting Spark or going to Ratbeard stream and things like that, because it all kind of we take on board everything that we hear from people, and then given everything we know from the community and everything we know about our long-term plans, we try to take it in the best direction possible. So, let us know. We hear your opinions. In part, this is a response to people were saying about their opinion about Spellements, both good and bad, over the last year. And so this is kind of, we just decided, hey, let's look at Spellements holistically and see what's the best path for this system overall. So anyway, that's kind of all I wanted to say. Is thanks for your feedback. Thanks for coming to the stream. Thanks for all your input. It's really valuable.
And about contacting Spark. So, The way to do that is the best way. We actually love to have the community feedback is through the forums. So you can create a post. If there's a topic that hasn't been posted before, go ahead and start one. See if you can get other people to respond to it and get their opinions out there on what you want to talk about, what you want us to see. We love that because we get good perspective from other community members on what is really of interest to you, all of you. You can always contact us, through other channels, but it's always nice to see that perspective. So, however you want to reach out to us, that's totally cool. If you do create a forum post or you respond to somebody else's forum post from a topic that you preferably you've looked at the forums and checked to see if there's anything that already is being discussed, you can link it to us as well and say, hey, there's we got 10 people talking about this in the forums, Wizard101 Central too. That's totally cool. Send us a link and say, hey, yeah, we're talking about this idea or this thought. That's the best way. We love that.
All right. And then I guess Ratbeard, do you have any final thoughts? Okay. All right. Well then, I guess that does it for today. I appreciate all the community questions at the very end here. Once again, I want to thank both Ratbeard, Artie, Spark, and Cam, all of y'all. Thank you so much for taking this time to talk with me and talk with us here in the community. Obviously, this is streamed as well. This is also going to be posted on YouTube as well for people that missed it, for people that are just joining now. This will be posted on Saturday as well. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you all for taking the time out of your day. Thank you, Spark and Cam, for helping get it set up. Thank you, Ratbeard and Artie, for answering all the questions for us. And I guess, yeah.
Well, thank you for having us. We always love having these hosted by the community. And if there's other topics that you want to host later on, maybe we'll do a Spellements Roundtable Part 2 someday.
Maybe.
We have so much to talk about. In fact, we kind of hope we have that at some point, especially after the spring update and everything that's happening there, and other topics and other anybody else that not to take it away from you, of course, but anybody who wants to that has a live stream channel would like to host a topic. We're always looking at that as well.
One final thing I forgot to mention before was KI Live, and I guess Spark can introduce this. But before we talk about KI Live, I will probably do another stream tomorrow in which I go over my thoughts. But in that stream, there will be giveaways. We'll talk more about that later, but there will be giveaways in tomorrow's stream. We were going to do it for this stream, but I wanted this stream to be specifically focused on the Spellements, so that will be happening tomorrow. But I guess, Spark, if you want to take over to talk about the KI Live next week, if there's any information that you think people should know for that.
There's KI Live next week. I actually don't remember what I had for my notes on what we wanted to specifically mention, but it's just going to be a great show. We're going to be announcing it in about 10 minutes, actually. So all of you who are listening at this moment, Thursday, 4 o'clock, you know the drill, same time, same place, and it's going to be fun. We're going to get community questions gathered on all the things. We'll try to answer as many as we can. If, as always, we have more questions we can answer, save them for the next live stream. We'll see you in chat, and we hope you enjoy the show, and we'll probably be giving away a couple of things at that point as well, I'm sure. So look forward to seeing everybody.
All right, and Cam, do you have any closing thoughts? I guess I forgot to ask you.
Not really.
All right, that's fine. All right, well, with that being said, once again, thank you so much for having this talk with us. And I'm really excited to see what the future of Spellements is going to look like. I will be grinding my current Spellements right now while also waiting anxiously to see what y'all have in store for us. Obviously, the next major update would be probably like a spring one. I don't want to say something wrong here, but I believe like the next major update would probably be the spring one. So I'm pretty excited to see what y'all have in store for us for then. But yeah, once again, thank you for this amazing talk discussion. All right.
Are you wanting to stream after this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
You want us to leave?
Yeah. My bad. Sorry. Okay. This is awkward. All right. But yeah, I appreciate it. And I'm gonna go talk to chat now. But
You're being kicked out.
It's all right. Sorry, I've been kicked out of work.
You guys can get out now. You guys can leave now.
Yeah, you guys can
All right.
leave.
I'm leaving. I'm out of here.
Goodbye.
all right. Well, I appreciate it. I hope you all have a great day. Yeah, I'm excited to see what's in store for us. So.
All right, very good.
Have a great rest of your day. Sorry.
All right, bye.
I messed that up. I messed that up, dude. What was that? Whoa. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, that was. I need to work on that, y'all. I need to work on that. All right. Well then, chat. Okay, so. I guess this is where I give my first impressions, thoughts. Listen. I did not prepare for this very well. You're a cow. And that was the roundtable. A little bit of an awkward ending at the very end. I'm not very good at ending things off, but I wanted to leave it in there because I thought it was a pretty funny moment, and by leaving this out there, it lets me know in the future if I do improve at this kind of thing, where I came from, where I started. So I think I'm gonna leave it up there, the awkward outro at the end. I need to learn how to say goodbye to people. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this roundtable. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about it. I would love for the comments to be a nice little discussion. I want to continue the discussion about the roundtable. Obviously, the roundtable itself's over, but it would be nice to keep on discussing things and getting ideas. And I may do a video where I give my thoughts on the discussion a little bit more in detail, what I thought. So, but yeah, let me know down in the comments below. Leave a thumbs up if you liked the video. Once again, huge shout out to everyone that helped make it possible. Shout out to Cam and Spark for helping me set up this event. Shout out to Emma for helping me with a lot of last minute helpful information, because Emma, as you know, helped Blake with his roundtable, the very first type of roundtable discussion we got, and then based on all that experience, Emma also helped me a lot with that. But shout out to all those three, and then also a huge shout out to Ratbeard and Artie for taking time out of their day to talk with me, and also a huge shout out to the Wizard101 community, everyone whose discords that I went into that give me all this insight. None of this would have been possible without all that information, because if we want to improve a system that people don't like or people feel could be better, the best way to do it is by getting the experience, the feedback from everyone. So I appreciate all that as well. Anyways, that is the end of this video. Once again, let me know down in the comments below what you think. Thank you all so much for watching. Much love. Stay safe out there wherever you are. Have fun. Enjoy the game. And as always, have a good evening.